Good morning. It's Thursday, April 16th. I'm Miriam Bosiljevets. Yellowknife's planning boss says the city is about to grow, which is why it needs a new neighborhood. Charles C. White presented plans this week to turn the green space north of Frame Lake into 1,000 homes. That development would be gradual over the next 25 years. White says billions in military investment is going to have a profound impact.
I know everywhere else in Canada may be talking about economic decline. We're growing. We know that it's coming. So how do we plan for that? So then when people come here, they're like, yeah, I live in Yellowknife now, right? And these are all the really cool things. You should come and live in Yellowknife too.
Councillors had their first chance to ask questions about the draft plan yesterday. They say they want to hear from residents before making a final decision. Read more on CabinRadio.ca. We're learning more about a major fraud investigation that affects some NWT Guardians programs. New details show a national nonprofit known as NGN is suing one of its own employees over alleged fraud worth $6 million. Court documents state the woman from Winnipeg is accused of using corporate credit cards to divert millions through PayPal, Apple, and TikTok. NGN says it no longer has money to operate. The Sawtoo Renewable Resources Board is one group receiving funding through NGN. The board told us it has already received 90% of this year's cash, and programs can go ahead even if the other 10% is lost. Yellowknife police are appealing for help finding a 16-year-old from Betchicon. In a Wednesday public appeal, RCMP said Malcolm Lafferty was last seen wearing a red jacket, black hat, white and red shoes, and black pants. He's described as 5'7" with black hair and brown eyes. Anyone with information on his whereabouts is asked to contact the Yellowknife Detachment. Hay River's Western Arctic Marine Training Center says it wants to develop a student dormitory on Vail Island. Executive Director John Vandenberg says the organization is in early discussions with the town. While no final decision has been made, he says the need for student housing is becoming increasingly urgent.
Colleges depend upon being able to provide an economic service. The students typically have to stay in hotels, and if they don't pay for the hotels themselves, then we have to pay for the hotels, and it's a very expensive process.
You can read more on our website. The town of Norman Wells is facing millions of dollars in cuts as Imperial Oil closes down. Imperial is shutting its century-old oil field in the coming months, which means no more tax revenue for the town. At a meeting yesterday, councillors began considering how to cope. Options include charging higher fees, handing over buildings to other groups, and closing down some services. Staffing will be reduced. No final decisions have been made, and a public meeting is expected soon. And Yellowknife councillors have unanimously backed calling on the federal government to adopt proportional representation. Under such a system, the number of seats a party holds in Parliament would be proportional to the number of votes that party receives. Jeremy Flatt is a representative of Fair Vote NWT. He had asked the city to support proportional representation.
I feel very proud of my city right now. I'm very grateful for my accessible and responsive local government. It's wonderful.
A letter will now be sent to Rebecca Alty and Mark Carney, calling on the Liberals to make the change. Your weather forecast for today: Yellowknife -5 with periods of snow, Inuvik -10 with a chance of flurries, Norman Wells -4 and with a chance of flurries,